Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. This is United versus Everybody. I'm going to turn the light down just a tad. I am your host, Sean. Appreciate you guys being here. I bet you guys thought that I wasn't going to do a video today. It was getting a little late. I wasn't here for the morning roundup. Shame on you. You know I couldn't stay far away for far too long. I am back again. Obviously, a bit of a slow season. And I told you guys when the transfer window was wrapping up that without, the constant news updates in the morning and throughout the day, I was probably going to go back to the normal-ish schedule of, the pre-matches and the post-match chat, and then obviously maybe sporadically throughout the week, do a little extra video. But here I am. I wanted to do a video mostly because of some of the nonsense that I've seen on social media. Now, a lot of United channels are chatting about this today, so I wanted to make sure I put my 2 cents in as well. Talking a little bit about Erik tenhag because the media is jumping in, Hag Out crowd's jumping in. It's a slow news time, no Premier League football for a while, international break. So you know how it is. The transfer window's closed. We're in the first break. Have I mentioned that I hate international breaks? How can you hope to build anything at the start of the season and get your players in sync at the beginning of the season just when they all now go their separate ways after 3 matches? And that just seems so backwards to me. And anyway, like I said, you can tell it's international break even without knowing it's international break just by the way the media is loving to stir up all the anti-United rhetoric and just getting the pitchforks out and getting the torches. So go watch Stephen Housen's channel if you want to look a little closer at some of the specific stuff that some of these idiot stick journals have said, because I don't want to go into detail every single one. He did a good job of that this morning, so go check that out. His Housen versus videos are good times because they pretty much say what we're all thinking, but some people don't want to admit. If you've been a United fan for more than 5 minutes, you're used to it. In any case, I'm here today, though, to address the nonsense coming from a portion of the fan base and the Hag Out rhetoric that is just rearing its ugly head again. So let's jump on in. I know we're all frustrated still after the weekend's result, but these Hag Out crowd fans have been clinging to this rhetoric since Hag arrived, almost before he arrived. And it's funny because a lot of them were actually screaming out for Hag to join the club. They didn't want Pochettino. They wanted Hag. They got Hag. And then lo and behold, things didn't automatically start challenging for City and Liverpool for titles right away. And now everyone's screaming. People are impatient. People are short-sighted. It's a combination of these people, some of these people not wanting Hag, Hag not having a score 4, 5, 6 goals in these matches. And then I think Player FC is being a little butthurt about certain players not vibing with the Dutchman. Who knows? You guys can let me know your thoughts. But the main claim is that Hag is a bad manager. He's not good enough. Is he a bad manager? Is he in over his head? Let's have a talk and take a look. So you really can't start this conversation without looking at Hag's time at Ajax. You can't talk about him as a United manager without talking about what he did to earn him the job at United, right? It's why we appointed him. It is what it is. And for context, in that being said, you need to also look at Ajax before Hag arrived, since Hag outers like to throw out this claim that, Ajax always wins their league. The Eredivisie is easy. Ajax always win it. I just realized I don't have my microphone on. So let me clip that on real quick, you guys. Sorry about that. It's been a very long day. I'm extremely tired. Is that better? I think that's probably better. Sorry about that, y'all. It is what it is. So yeah, they like to say Ajax, they always win their league. They always win their league, right? Well, they don't always win the league. Before Hag arrived, Ajax hadn't won the Eredivisie in 4 seasons. Hag arrived and he won it 3 times. Really easily could have been 4, but the 1920 season was canceled because of COVID. It was canceled like 25 matches in. And I think at that point, he was tied with Feyenoord on like 56 points or something. Don't quote me. But in Hag's first season, Ajax scored 119 goals in the league. That was their highest goal tally in the league since 1967. They finished that season with a goal differential of plus 87. Like, that's a big deal. And here's when people start moving the goalposts and they're saying, the Dutch league just isn't good. It's too easy. Well, that's when you want to shift and tell them what he did in Champions League. He got Ajax to their first Champions League semifinal since 1997, 20 years basically. He knocked out Real Madrid after being a goal down in the first leg against them, and then he beat Juventus over 2 legs in the quarterfinal as well. Not too shabby. And you remember his last season at Ajax, they handled a Borussia Dortmund side that had Erling Haaland in it. I mean, Leach, that was back when Lisandro Martinez was still playing. He handled and kept Haaland quiet too. He had what's his face? Now I always forget his name now. The striker who played with West Ham and then he played for Ajax. But he had him as like the top goal scorer in the Champions League at that time as well. And so it's not as if Ten Hag can't do it on a larger scale. It's not as if it's only the Dutch league like people want to say. And then look at what Ajax have done since Ten Hag left. In 2022-2023, that's the season Ten Hag started at United. Ajax finished 3rd. And then last season, they managed 5th place, which is their lowest finish in the league since the mid-60s, I think. They're also on their 6th manager in like 2 years. And we know all about what it's like to have some manager turnover, don't we, United fans? Big up, Danny. Welcome back, bud. You caught me right after I remembered to put my microphone on. So sorry if you guys are here for a couple minutes and you couldn't hear me very well. It was on. It was just on the table and not clipped to my shirt. So we know all about manager turnover. And Ajax are on like their 6th manager since Ten Hag left it. Before they arrived, no league since in 4 seasons, no Champions League semifinal since '97. Ten Hag arrived, Champions League semifinal, 3, could have been 4 leagues in a row since they left. 3rd place, 5th place, 6th manager in 2 years. And it was only after Ten Hag left the Eredivisie too that Arne Slot was finally able to win the league, and he only did it the one time. So I'm just saying, you know, no Ten Hag, no party for Ajax, and no Ten Hag finally get a trophy for Arne Slot. The point is that Ten Hag did great things at Ajax, and Ajax have struggled since he left. There's not a coincidence. You can't just ignore that. That's like saying like Ferguson wasn't a big deal at United. You know, you have to look at what we were doing before he got there. Look what he did, and then look what's happened since he left. Like, it's a big deal. Even if your argument is the Dutch league is just not good, he did excellently in the Champions League, like I said. And at the end of the day, you can only play who is in your league anyway. It's not like they can just decide to go play in the Bundesliga or something as Ajax. Like, you play who you play, and that's it. So how has Ten Hag fared since taking the United job? Let's take a look. When it comes to comparing Ten Hag to other Premier League managers, we really need to look at his first couple seasons and compare those to the first 2 seasons of other managers. That's really the only fair comparison you can make, right? Like, remember a long time ago, I did that video on Rasmus Højlund, and a lot of people were comparing him, you know, price and stuff. And I looked at his numbers at his age based on some of the other top strikers at the same age, because you can't look at him at their best. You can't take Rasmus Højlund and compare him to like Lewandowski or Harry Kane at their best, right? You want to compare him with how they were at the same age. And the stats will surprise you. So go check out that video. But let's compare Ten Hag's first 2 seasons to some of the other managers, right? You can look at what he walked into at the club as well, the squad he inherited, the ownership, the financial situation. All of this is all the stuff that he walked into that not many other managers have to walk into. Can you say that Pep Guardiola walked into a situation like that at Man City? Absolutely not. Arteta, same issue. We also need to look at some of the unique circumstances that Ten Hag has faced. Ronaldo's situation, Jadon Sancho's situation, injury crisis, Antony's legal situation, the ownership circus, all that stuff that no other managers really had to deal with one of those issues, let alone all of them in 2 years. That's insane. Go look back at the video I did a while back on Erik Ten Hag's tenure to learn a little bit more about that stuff. But let's look at some of these numbers here. So if you look at his first 2 season stats compared to, right now I'm looking at Arteta and Jurgen Klopp. I'll just go ahead and put this on let me go ahead and put this on the screen so you guys can see what I'm looking at as well. So we're all on the same page, right? Oops. All right, so this is what I'm looking at here. So looking at his first 2 season stats compared to Klopp, compared to Arteta, Klopp games, so the stats are going to be a little skewed somewhat, but this is what we have to work with here. So Ten Hag actually got more points in the same amount of games as Arteta, 11 more points, in fact. And he got 10 less points than Klopp, because, well, Klopp also played 13 more games. And so, it's, like I said, a little skewed. He's got more wins than both, He's got fewer defeats than Klopp, 2 more defeats than Arteta, way fewer draws as well. But his points per game average is actually 1.95, as you can see there, actually higher than both Pep and Klopp, Arteta and Klopp in his first 2 seasons as United manager. If we look at some of what he did against Pep, so Pep Guardiola actually in his first 2 seasons, he did average a slightly higher, like it was just over 2 points per game. It was like 2.2 points per game with that City side. But if you compare like what they did in the league, so Pep's first season in the Premier League, he got 3rd place. Erik Tenhag got 3rd place. His first season in the Premier League, he made it to the semi-final of the FA Cup. Tenhag made it to the final. We won the FA Cup in Ten Hag's first season. Pep got to the 4th round, and we got to the quarterfinals of Ten Hag's first European competition, and Pep got to the round of 16. And so it's when you take it and you break it down by some of the numbers and look and to really stack up the comparisons fairly, like the first few seasons, right? This is what you get. Now, Pep obviously won the league in his 2nd season, but we're going to talk a little bit more about that as you look at some more context. So Jurgen Klopp took over Liverpool after the season had already started. Remember, it was a big deal. Brendan Rodgers got sacked. But it also did take Liverpool 4 seasons under Klopp to really become relevant under his management. And really, you could argue that they peaked in 2019, right? They came within touching distance of 100 points. They got their league finally. They got Champions League finally. I still say that Spurs lost that final rather than Liverpool won it. I don't know what they were thinking, forcing Harry Kane back into the starting lineup after Lucas Moura basically got them that final. But that's neither here nor there. I'm not a Liverpool fan. I'm not a Spurs fan. It is what it is. And sticking with Klopp, so in Klopp's final season at Liverpool, which was last season, he accomplished exactly what Ten Hag accomplished in his first season at United. He got 3rd place. He got the League Cup. And we're calling it like this grand farewell tour, greatest manager ever. Like Arteta took over after Emery was sacked also. He won the FA Cup. He won the FA Cup with Emery's squad. He hasn't done anything with any of the players that he wanted to bring in, that he brought to the club under his philosophy, under his style, under this process. It's always trust the process, trust the process. Maybe he can draw a trophy on that whiteboard that he keeps in the dressing room. I don't know. Maybe that's about the closest he'll ever get. Other than that, the closest thing they get to a trophy is the We Beat United at Home Cup that they like to trot out the last couple of years. But it is what it is. On City had already won 2 league titles, an FA Cup, 2 Carabao Cups before Pep Guardiola even arrived. City's money was already there. City's infrastructure was already there. They were planning for Pep this entire time. They were identifying players. They were building that system. They were doing everything they needed to do before he was there. If you want to learn a little bit more about that, go deep dive into Kevin De Bruyne's transfer to City when Pep was still at Bayern Munich, because De Bruyne was all set to go to Bayern Munich, and then somehow somebody got notified that Pep was going to be going to City, so they went ahead and moved him to City, De Bruyne, beforehand. So you go ahead and look that up. You'll be surprised at what you might find. And then with City, do we even need to get into the allegations that may or may not have played a role in their success over the last decade? I mean, we'll see where the chips land with that one in the next few months, but it's not like anybody cares that much about City anyway. The Sancho Ten Hag drama got way more coverage than their treble did, for fuck's sake. So what are you going to do? Ten Hag walked into a United that had just had a horrible season. We saw 2 managers sacked, Ollie and Ralph Rangnick. And he inherited a squad of multiple managers' players, including Sir Alex players, because David De Gea was a Sir Alex signing. Ten Hag quickly realized what he was dealing with in John Murtaugh, Richard Arnold, and then he realized what the previous regime had done under like Ed Woodward and co. in terms of just the players that he had, the contracts that they were on, the prices that they paid. Like his hands were tied in so many ways. Even if you wanted to build a squad, not being able to sell players and then not having the money to bring players in really left his hands tied. And so with that being said, it's hard to build a squad. And so any manager, and this happens all the time, they're going to rely on players that they know and familiar with it to help the process start on a smoother process. He had injury blows to 2 midfielders early in the season. He had a CR7 temper tantrum that left us without a striker. And he was only given 2 loan signings, Wout Weghorst and Marcel Sabitzer. I like Sabitzer a lot. Weghorst, God love him, he worked his ass off. It's a shame he couldn't score a goal in the league, but he showed more fight in the half year he was here on loan than some of these United players have shown in years of being at the club. So big up about Greg Horse. He's at Ajax now, isn't he? I think so. But despite all this, Ten Hag got third place. He got a trophy, the first trophy available to him. He got Rashford back to his best season ever, better than some of the top wingers in football, better than Vinicius Jr.'s best season, better than Arjen Robben's best season, Ribéry's best season, better than all these guys' seasons. Marcus Rashford's season 22-23 was. Let me check what you guys got to say in the chat so far. Danny so far. Big up, Danny. Nick, if you are watching, you got to shoot me your deets, man. I did get your email. I tried to respond, but then I got a message saying that your inbox was full. So let me know your deets, and I'll go ahead and get you that shirt. I'm going to pop those in tomorrow. I was crazy busy today. That's why I'm so tired and a bit scatterbrained. Don't forget to hit the like button, please, if you haven't yet. Don't forget to subscribe, too, by the way, while I'm stopped. And then also, if you haven't seen the pinned comment in the live chat, when it is time to grab your next jersey, no matter what club you support, hopefully it's United, there is a link in the video description, and then obviously I put the code in the pinned comment there. That is a link to get $5 off your order at Go Shop. Good site for quality jerseys. I got a couple. I just ordered another one earlier today. They did hook me up with my own code to pass along to you all as a thank you for helping the channel grow. So again, click the link or use the code in the comment. It's 64243E at checkout to get $5 off. I just ordered this year's third from Go Shop. I'll let you guys get a look at it when it arrives. Probably be here for a couple days. Yauda Aya, hi bro. How are you, my guy? Thanks for stopping in. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe if you are new, and use that. Click on the link in the description, use the code in the pin chat to get $5 off. So let's move on to Ten Hag and how he stacks up to United managers post-Fergie. We saw maybe how he stacks up in his first couple seasons at other Premier League managers who have been here for a while. Let's look how he stacks up to other United managers. So as far as points per game, so far he's got second best out of all the United managers post-Fergie. The only one who's better than him is Jose Mourinho. His win percentage is second best as well, 57.89% win percentage. And I didn't include this year's stats. He's going by the first two seasons again, because it's only been 3 matches. Jose Mourinho has about half a percentage better at 58.33%, and then behind him is Ole Gunnar Solskjaer with 54%. So second best in terms of points per game, second best in terms of the win percentage so far. What about trophies? So despite the style of play trophy that a lot of these Ten Hag outers and these rivals want to claim as is the most important, you notice that that's what they move to when you show them what he's actually won. It's always, well, what about the style of play? Well, again, goalposts get moved. Ten Hag has 2 trophies in his first 2 seasons. Jose got 2 in his first season. Louis van Gaal had 1. Ollie got to a final. I mean, that's pretty much it, right? It really comes down to what value you place on each trophy, really. Is a Carabao Cup and the Europa League better than a Carabao Cup and the FA Cup? I mean, we're probably splitting hairs if we get into that debate. Trophies are trophies at the end of the day. What are your thoughts on that? Yada says, Erik Ten Hag out or continue? What you think, bro? Keep watching the video, man, but get your thoughts in. I'm here for your opinion, not just mine. I'm just lending context today. I'm looking at how Ten Hag compares to other Premier League managers in his first 2 seasons. I'm looking at how he compares to other United managers since Sir Alex retired. So, Raja, welcome back, buddy. But you guys get your thoughts in on what you think about Ten Hag as I'm giving you some context, because I want to know your thoughts. Because I've seen it online all day. We've seen it from the journalists and the media and the pundits and whatnot. I have to stop and address it. So if you've watched my videos on some of the managers that we were linked with late last season, I went through like 5 of them. I think it was Graham Potter, Amorim, Motta, Tuchel, and somebody else. I forget. De Zerbi was the other one. You know that one of my criteria for looking at managers, one of the factors that I look at a lot is crisis management. How do you handle it when you get a player injured or someone suspended, or, you know, you're just, the whole plan gets ruined by something simple like that? How should a manager deal with missing or injured players? You know, how do you do that? It's not easy. Klopp's Champions League final, you remember, against Real Madrid the year before they went to the final against Spurs, That Champions League final fell apart when Mo Salah dislocated his shoulder, if you remember that. City have lost several games when Rodri was suspended last year. They lost pretty much every game without Rodri. Like, it's a big deal. And that was just one player for either team. And in Liverpool's case, it was one game, right? Raja says, why do Liverpool media talk about Man United? What do you really know? Because they're obsessed, Raja. Hated, adored, never ignored. We draw clicks. They have nothing else to talk about. We get more attention, more clicks, more views, more chat, more airtime when we lose one game. Sancho and Ten Hag drama gets more airtime than City winning the treble. Like, it's just is what it is. We ruin a lot of childhoods. The media is full of abus. It is what it is. City can win every Champions League for the next decade, and no one's going to care. They'll still not be bigger than us. They'll never will be. But Yada says, what joke is Erik Ten Hag doing, bro? You think he's a joke? Let me know. Rajat, UCL versus Tottenham was rigged from that penalty. Yeah. I think Spurs kind of cost themselves, and I think I would argue that maybe Daniel Levy, Harry Kane kind of cost them that. I think Pochettino probably should have stuck with Lucas Moura in that final and maybe brought Kane on as a sub, because Lucas Moura, he scored a hat trick in the semi, and he started an injured Harry Kane. But it is what it is. Injured players not easy to work with. Like I said, Klopp, they lost Mo Salah in the Champions League final against Madrid, and everything fell apart. City fell apart for a few games without Rodri last season when he was suspended. He wasn't even injured. Like, United had 45 injuries last season, including major long-term injuries to our key defenders that Ten Hag identified and brought into the club. For a manager whose aim is to build out from the back, to have a little composure, that's a big blow. Sorry, I just want to make sure. So that's a big blow when you're losing key players to your system, and your system is basically built on building out from the back. Now, if we look at our injuries last season, I'm sure you guys have all seen this graphic at some point. So this is from Opta. This shows you the most commonly used center back pairings that we had at United last season, right? So if you can see, the most commonly used pair was Raphael Varane and Johnny Evans. So assigning a Raphael Varane, a player that Ten Hag didn't even bring to the club, and Johnny Evans, who we basically had to settle for, and that's not disrespect, it's just the fact, who we basically had to settle for as a free agent when we didn't have the funds to get Kim Min-jae, to get Benjamin Pavard, and whoever else we were linked with last season. So a free agent who was 30-some-odd years old, and Raphael Varane, an injury-prone defender that wasn't even a Ten Hag signing, were our most used center-back pairings. And then the next one you're looking at is Maguire and Varane, two center backs that Ten Hag had nothing to do with, one of whom is the opposite of the system that we play. And after that, finally, Lissandro's in there, and he was only used 4 times. So Ten Hag only had probably arguably our best 2 center backs last season for 4 games. Like, that's insane. Yato says, you look like Erik Ten Hag. Do I? I'm not bald. And your soul is a loser. My soul is a loser. That's a new one. Thanks, bud. Appreciate that. So like I said, the injuries are really, really killed us last year. And it's not like losing Salah in a Champions League final and all falls apart. It's not like losing Rodri for suspension for 4 games. It is literally 45 injuries, no Luke Shaw for half the season, no Tyrell Malacia all season long. Licha's injured, Varane's in and out of the side being injured. Like, what are you supposed to do with that? I'd like to see any other manager navigate that in any sort of way. Again, what can a manager do with that many injuries? If that were a major crisis like that at any given other club, it would be given so much more forgiveness and so much more grace, and it would be the go-to excuse if there were any other club, and when it comes to the journalists and the medias and the pundits. But because it's United, it doesn't even get talked about. It's not even mentioned. City, you get a pity party when Rodri's suspended. Liverpool get a pity party when Virgil van Dijk is injured, and no one wants to remember that was like their big injury blow. We didn't have any fit center backs. So moving on to style of play, it's a big criticism. Ten Hag does have a system, and we have seen it in progress. We have seen it progress, and we've seen it working in the matches. In his first season, Ten Hag used that 4-2-3-1, and he had Casemiro kind of sitting in that double pivot. Eriksson and Bruno even interchanged a little bit, even sometimes playing as 2-8s when we shifted to like a 4-3-3, depending on the situation. Forget Casemiro's recent form. I know I went in on him the other day, rightfully so. Forget his recent form and remember how good he was in Ten Hag's first season here. Casemiro was a great player for us when he was here, when he wasn't suspended. He was a great player for us. His numbers, he was led the squad in interceptions. He had some really good defensive numbers that season. Ten Hag also that season relied on Rashford a lot. I remember Cristiano Ronaldo threw his fit and left. Ten Hag relied on Rashford either as a striker sometimes or cutting in off the left side to come get some goals. I mean, Rashford was getting a lot of goals centrally in Ten Hag's first season. And he did press well that season. He offered pace on the counterattack. Remember, we did a lot of counterattacks and quick transitions, which likely a lot of that had to do with his goal output that season. Remember, that was Rashford's best season. Ten Hag's main tactic that first season, just again, slowly building the squad, slowly implementing his system. You saw it was a mixture of this quick build-up, penetrating runs, similar to like the Ajax. You know, a lot of these runs in the channels to kind of break the lines and get on the other side of defenders. A lot of quick transitions, a lot of good, just relentless attack, pressing. We liked what we saw. It worked. But that's a common criticism, right? He has no style of play. He has tactics. He has a style of play. But Ten Hag outers will like to cry about trophies one day, and then when Ten Hag wins trophies, it's, oh, what about the style of play? When we show them a style of play, and then it's just like, it's just one excuse after another. It's just moving the goalpost. Raja said, did Licha get figured out? Hate to say butcher is not looking like a butcher. Love Licha. Yeah, Licha, I know he's getting some slack today for some photo he took with McAllister. It is what it is. I'm sure that wouldn't fly in Fergie's day, but this isn't 30 years ago, so I don't really care a whole lot about what people do outside of football, personally, as long as it doesn't interfere with your performances. Doesn't really matter. But anyway, Ten Hag does have a style of play, but the problem is when we don't have the personnel to actually pull it off. His persistence with it does cost us. If Licha is injured, don't try to play out from the back with Maguire. If you didn't get Frankie de Jong, don't try to build out the attack with Casemiro dropping deep to pick up the ball like we saw against Liverpool. It isn't gonna work. It's not his game. And despite what people will have you believe, Ten Hag has improved us. We handled City in the FA Cup final. They couldn't get the ball out of their own half. We pressed them. We were patient, and we just didn't let them out of their half. We forced them to play these risky balls. We forced them just to keep passing in a horseshoe pattern. We imposed our system on City in that FA Cup final. If you don't believe me, go back and watch it. I've seen us able to play quick triangles all in our own third when we're trying to get out of a press. I've seen us do it very, very well. We saw it in preseason. We saw a little bit last season, time and time again. We had a really good link-up play as well to get out of trouble. We've seen that 4-2-4 press work very, very well. Like, there is a system. It does work. It's just when it's very player-specific and it relies on these players doing everything well. Team pressing isn't just everybody running the ball. It isn't just one person running. It's everybody knowing what the triggers are and knowing what to do and pressing together, and it only works when everybody's doing it well. And it relies on a lot of football intelligence. A lot of our players don't have that. We lost against Liverpool this weekend, yes, but the numbers, like I said in the video, have improved since last season, even in that 2-2 draw. And I already broke that down in that 3 Thoughts video. Again, Liverpool did to us this weekend what we needed to do to them. And if on an individual level, our players would have taken better care of the ball, who knows what might have happened. Now, some of that is system, some of that is player. We're not going to split hairs there. It is what it is. Bottom line is Ten Hag does have tactics, and we've seen them work. Danny B says he needs to go back to that mid-block shadow press similar to the FA Cup and keep things simple. Yeah, I agree. I think that it's partly to do with the players, not having it up here to know what to do. But I think it's just one of those things where if it ain't broke, why try to fix it? You know, I do agree. I think there are some things that we're working that we've moved on from a little bit too quickly, and I feel like if it's working, why are we changing it? Now, I know it sounds like I'm just defending Ten Hag. I'm defending Ten Hag. It's just us against the world. It's United versus everybody, like the channel's name says, you know. But I'm doing this because the media, rival fans, and the Ten Hag outers like to move the goalposts, or they simply ignore context. Now, we all know that if you've been watching the channel, context is key. That's what I always say. So for the sake of objectivity and fairness, because that's what I'm here for, I'll say that Ten Hag isn't exempt from criticism. At times, Ten Hag does get his team selection wrong, in my opinion. Now, is that just having a brain fart, just picking the wrong side? Is it being stubborn, sticking with some players like we saw with Antony for so long, or Rashford this season? You let me know what you think there. I think he can be a little too loyal to players sometimes when they're out of form, or maybe when he just really wants it to work. He can be a bit stubborn, which isn't necessarily a bad thing in and of itself, but it's about a when and why thing. It's choosing your battles and when to stick or twist, basically. Danny says stubborn. Yeah, he can be very stubborn. I don't know if that's a Dutch thing or if it's a Ten Hag thing or what, because Louis van Gaal is kind of the same way. Mourinho's the same way. Ollie's the same way. I've yet to see a manager who isn't stubborn, because it's the hard part of a manager, right? And it's lose sometimes if you want to be stubborn or not. You can be stubborn and it's you don't know what you're talking about. You can make changes even in a match and it's, well, clearly he got it wrong and he had to make changes. That's admitting you made a mistake. It's hard. I don't see the problem with making a change mid-match if something's not working, if you need to take someone off. And I don't see the problem with admitting, okay, didn't go the way I wanted to, let's change it up. It's just, I'd rather do that than drop points personally. But I've yet to see a manager who is so willing to do that personally. So Rajat says, I don't think he's a bad manager. Yeah, we're getting there. Again, this is all about your point of view, and I'm just adding some context. So we looked at how he stacks up to like Pep, Klopp, and Arteta in those first 2 years. We looked at how he stacked up to some of former United managers. We're looking at his tactics now and showing like, no, he does have tactics. Rajat says, most managers have self-confidence, such as Ancelotti, Guardiola, and Pep. Yeah, it helps when you've got really good players too. Or in Guardiola and Klopp's case, it helps when the club has stuck by you for 8-9 years and you have time to build that system. You're with these players. Klopp has been with some of these Liverpool players. Some of these Liverpool players have been together for like 3 times longer than Ten Hag's even been in the league. It's hard to go up against some teams like that when they're so well drilled, or City, who are just stacked with talent. You're never going to catch up to City, Liverpool, and Arteta in 2 years. It just wasn't going to happen. Anybody who expected that or is mad about not doing it, like, I think you need to temper your expectations, be a little bit more realistic. And then, like I said, as far as the stubbornness, it's stubborn with certain players, stubborn with maybe certain tactics sometimes, like Danny was implying. Also, I think it's stubborn sometimes with just the way, again, like I spoke about last season, when Licha or Varane are injured, you can't try to play out from the back with like Maguire and Evans or Maguire, Lindelof, or whoever. It's not going to work. They're not press resistant. They're not good on the ball. Johnny Evans and Harry Maguire, good if you're in like a West Ham or an Everton or something where you're defending the box and you're just getting it out. You're fine. That's fine. They'll do just fine. Maguire could go join Mourinho at Fenerbahce and probably look like a world beater in defense. Like, that's because it's just the way he plays. We saw it under Louis van Gaal too. Chris Smalling looked like a world beater sometimes under Louis van Gaal, just because of the way that we played. And so I think that Ten Hag has a tendency to stick with some of that system sometimes, rather than maybe in a one-off or even two-off game if someone's injured. Like, let's like Danny's saying, like, let's keep things simple. Let's be a little more pragmatic, and let's just try to be compact. I was hoping, and then again, 3 matches in, I'm hoping that Ruud, Rene Haka, these guys, because Ruud is known for his Eindhoven side being very, very hard to break down, very compact. I'm hoping, again, because that's another new change, is we have all these new coaches too, so it's going to take time. I'm hoping that we'll see some more of that implemented as Ruud spends some more time with these players. But you've got players who aren't fit, and you got players who weren't even here like just over a week ago, and so I don't know what people are expecting right now. So be patient. So sorry. So I'm not forgetting about last season either when we're talking about criticism, because last season was a black mark in the record books. So putting the FA Cup aside for a second, for argument's sake, because the FA Cup, people are too quick to forget that we won the FA Cup last year against City side, who just won a treble the year before and strengthened. Like, we came out and we dominated them. Let's put that aside, though, for a second, because last year's season form was fucking awful. We lost 19 games and conceded 84 goals last season. The last time we did anywhere near that many losses was in the 70s, 73, 74 season. We had 22 losses. The last time we conceded more than 84 goals in a season was in the 60s, and we conceded 89 goals in the 63-64 season. We ended last season with a negative goal difference, something we haven't managed since like the late 80s. Was it 88 something? Somebody remind me. Last season was our worst performance since we came 13th under Fergie in 1990. There's no way around it. It wasn't good enough. And while the FA Cup covers a multitude of sins, no one is going to forget where we finished in the league last season anytime soon. I think that's going to be a hard thing for Erik ten Hag to move on from. Danny B says, even harder for Slab when he doesn't have legit left back beside him. Yeah, well, we can't. You can argue we never have a legit left back beside him because Luke Shaw has literally been fit 50% of his United career. So, again, Luke Shaw is a non-entity. I don't want to get into it again. It's only going to make me mad. And if somebody mentions Kadiolu, I know that I said not to mention it, having just mentioned it, but don't talk about it because it's just that whole situation. Let's just pretend it's like the fourth Indiana Jones movie, right? It never happened. Just forget about it and move on. We're done. As far as Ten Hag goes, criticisms, I'll add two, and this might be slightly unfair, but I'll add it anyway. His pressers are not great. He's not good in front of the camera. Not everybody is charismatic in front of camera. Not everybody has that stature, that presence when they sit down, when they walk into a room, like your Zinedine Zidane, like your Carlo Ancelotti. Not everybody is good in front of the camera like Jurgen Klopp was when he first joined Liverpool. Although Jurgen Klopp was starting to turn into like horrible Mourinho style towards his last couple seasons at Liverpool. I mean, he called a reporter fat and took his microphone after he lost one day. I mean, come on. What a baby. It's not his fault that Ten Hag is not like good in front of the camera. Like it is what it is. It's his personality. I'm not saying he has to like take acting classes and he's got to practice speeches. I'm not saying that. I'm saying I hope that the Harry Potter comment on the weekend was the last one of that kind that we're going to hear from him at United, because that was not a good look. It just is what it is. I'm still laughing about that. If you guys thought that was rough, please hit that like button for me. 7 of you guys watching, get that like button for me. Subscribe if you are new. Let me know your thoughts on Ten Hag as I'm talking, because again, I'm not here to just put out my opinion and say that's it. Like, I'm not some sort of football genius. I'm not like some sort of expert. I'm not been a manager or anything. I'm just a guy with a camera, a ring light, a YouTube account, and a United fan. So I just want to hear your thoughts. So I've said many times that there's a reason that we scored a ton of goals under Ollie. Bruno and Rashford and a few more in the squad are just better suited to that counterattack, that relentless kind of transition system. And here's what you're asking, Sean, well, why did Rashford put up those numbers in Ten Hag's first season then if he's not good at tactics? Well, you sort of answered your own question again. It's Ten Hag's first season. I've said many times that his first season at United, Ten Hag didn't have nearly the number of players he needed for his system. So we played quick transition counters with a bit of his pressing mixed in. Rashford pressed a lot. Bruno pressed a lot. We won the ball. Rashford was getting in behind people. He was cutting in from the left. He was getting a lot of goals. Ten Hag learned pretty quickly, too, that you can't rely on David De Gea to take care of the ball against the high press when you're trying to build out from the back. You couldn't rely on Lindelof. You couldn't rely on Harry Maguire. We couldn't rely on these players. So it was needs must in that first season that got us to third place, 2 finals, and a trophy. Danny B says, classic Harry Potter. Didn't Mourinho say something like that a while back, too? I feel like Mourinho said exactly almost the same exact thing. Somebody look that up and let me know. So the thing is, on the counterattack, we didn't appoint Ten Hag to be a counterattacking manager, though. So again, it raises the question. Yes, it worked in his first season-ish. It was like a half counter, more of a transition team. Because again, all counterattack is transition, but not all transition is counterattack, right? So it worked, and we do have some of the players for it. But do you want Ten Hag to play his system, or do you want him to just play a system that suits the previous manager's players because it gets us a lot of goals and it gets Rashford some goals? You don't bring in a manager to play the system that the previous manager did. You don't bring in a manager because you have 1 or 2 players who are good in that system. There's a reason people keep saying in the chat, and I'm not saying I agree with it. necessarily to a certain extent, but there's a reason people are saying Rashford and Bruno you can't build a team around them. The two players that are the main counterattacking players under the previous manager are the two players that everyone that seems to think is sticking out right now, because they're the two players who they can probably learn a little bit of this system if they want to, but they're the two players who seem to be having the hardest time acclimating themselves to this new system. And there's a reason that they stick out like sore thumbs. Randy says, Erik ten Hag is the best manager with an average squad. Average squad's a little harsh in my opinion. I think we have a good squad. I don't think the entire squad is the best squad suited for his system. I think that if you put, like, again, we were just talking about under Ollie when we were playing that counterattack, Bruno, Rashford, these guys who are really good counterattacking. Bruno is good with those long balls. Rashford's good on the counter. They look great. We just don't play like that anymore. Danny says 2 8s and a 10, similar to what Slot is doing, to be honest, but he has 8s that can play through the first phase. We have 1 mid in Mano, rest cannot. Yeah. We'll talk a little bit more about that match in a few minutes as well. So, again, do you want Ten Hag to play his system, or do you want him just to come in and play what the previous manager did, because we have the couple players that are really good at it? Ten Hag's pressing system requires coordination and a level of tactical intelligence and composure that may be too much to ask from some of these players that he inherited. Bruno lacks composure. Rashford can only run forward, like I said before, Crash Bandicoot settings. Maguire's not good in the ball. Sancho has an attitude problem. He's gone now, so it is what it is. Shaw's never fit. Aaron Wan-Bissaka is not the kind of right back that you want in this system, so et cetera, et cetera. There's a lot of players that he inherited that just don't do it, and it was needs must. It got the job done. Some players stepped up, some players did not. Like Dalot stepped up. Dalot looks really good. Some players did not step up. It is what it is. I went in on Casemiro the other day, and justifiably so to a degree, but when everyone gets forward so quickly, and when he has the ball, like when he drops deep to pick the ball, and like the fullbacks are almost in the opposition half before Casemiro even has a chance to walk the ball out of our box. He has no options. So you're really relying on him in that situation to kind of be able to bring the ball forward without being an excellent passer. He's a decent passer, and without being super quick. And everyone's got to now come back. And when everyone's come back, that means they're facing him, which is harder to kind of receive the ball when you're not also press resistant as well. It didn't really work that well. Randy says, give Pep Guardiola this team and he will be sacked with it. Yeah, give Pep Guardiola the previous recruitment structure, give some of these players. And honestly, it's just, and like, no offense, but give Pep Guardiola some of this fan base. I'm sure he would take any fans at this point because City have fucking no fans. And we'll see how long he lasts. Pep Guardiola chooses his clubs very, very carefully, if you haven't noticed. So again, on Casemiro, we're kind of talking a little bit more about the Liverpool match now. Fullbacks, everybody gets forward as soon as we get the ball and we start building out from the back. Liverpool, again, they played exactly like we should have been playing against them. Because if you notice, they play a very similar system the other day. So this was partially a structural issue on the day, by the fact, like Danny's saying, Manu had the same issues when Casemiro was taken off, and Manu took over his role a little bit. He faced the same press, same isolation, caused his loss of possession in the second half that led to their third goal. Nick, did you just start walking? I just saw you, so I hate to keep interrupting. Nick, you need to empty your inbox in your email. You need to send me your details directly, because I tried to reply to you and got a message that your inbox storage was full. So let me know your address, bud. Danny says, Garnacho needs to get better in possession. He will improve over time. He's only 19. Ahmad is very technical on the ball. Perfect for what Erik ten Hag needs. Yeah, Ahmad is stupendous. We were crying out for Ahmad to get more minutes last season. Garnacho's been holding on to the ball a little too much, which is going to happen when you're young and you're coming on as a sub, and when you want to do something, when you want to contribute, you're going to make some of those kind of little child mistakes. It's going to happen. Randy says there's no manager that can win anything with this bunch. I mean, Ten Hag did win the FA Cup. I mean, he won a Carabao Cup. And so I do think he has won. And I think he's won in spite of some of like what you're saying. So we're like, you're right. And, I'm right in some degrees as well, is that Ten Hag has won. You're right that the squad is not great, but Ten Hag still won something with it despite that. So I think that's a check in the plus column for Ten Hag right now. So again, like Danny was saying, we have one player in the first phase in Manu when he kind of took over Casemiro's role in the second half against Liverpool. But again, this is where you start to look at the differences in squad. Liverpool bought 4 midfielders last summer, and one of whom is a World Cup winner. We have 19-year-old Kobbie Mainoo, who's literally been playing professional first-team football, only started last Thanksgiving, and we're relying on that. This is the difference right now. This is why I say you expecting us to start challenging for leagues and Champions Leagues and whatnot when this is the situation we're in. Like, that's just naive, or it's just facetious, whatever you want to call it. It's not going to happen. The system looked good in preseason, and it's even looked good in this season as well. It caused problems for Fulham. We did cause problems for Brighton, and we even caused a couple problems for Liverpool at times with some of our pressing, especially on their fullbacks. The problem against Liverpool was twofold. It was individual errors and mistakes, sloppy passes, poor touches, losing the ball cheaply, and a bit of a lack of mental resilience from some players. Like you saw when Liverpool scored and our heads dropped, just like they have for years. But again, it's part of that structure. I was watching the match again. I was looking at a couple more videos today, and you saw the space that we left because everybody was getting so far forward. Liverpool had 4 players. Literally, we had about 20 yards between our defenders and our midfield because Casemiro and Mainoo were getting so far forward. Liverpool just parked 4 attackers in that space, and all they had to do, because it was so easy to beat the press, because they had much better players and because we were kind of light in midfield because they were pressing, so it was literally only Mainoo and Casemiro. It took one pass to break that mid, and they were on. And it just happened over and over and over again. We thought that maybe Liverpool were going to play a certain way. They changed tact a little bit, and it just kind of threw us off. On the weekend, I don't even think Liverpool were world class. It wasn't even like they had to play great. It was literally just one simple pass, and then they just had numbers in our half, and that was it. They capitalized on our individual errors. Ten Hag had a very aggressive, very high pressing setup, which I didn't think was the best to do. And Liverpool just more clinical. Remember, they had 3 big chances. We had 3 big chances. We had 0 goals. They had 3 goals. It just is what it is. In defense, Liverpool uses the same kind of 4-2-4 as we did. They're just, again, too much space between our midfield and our defense. So when we did lose possession again, Liverpool just beat the press. They outnumbered our defenders, and just one pass through and they were done. Again, like I said, pressing with both Bruno and Zirkzee left Mainoo and Casemiro outnumbered. Our fullbacks were getting too high up the pitch way too soon. And again, there's just too many players had a bad day at the office. So again, partly Ten Hag structural on the day, and then partly individual errors. Basically, they played the system that we want to play, and they just did bad. They have better players, and they played together for a lot longer. Randy says Liverpool is better than us in this moment. Yeah, they are. And that's what other thing people want to, they forget. It's not just it's almost better for Liverpool that they didn't come in right away, Arne Slot, and they just didn't buy a bunch of players. He had players who had already been playing, players who had already won, players who are arguably already class players, like in Mo Salah, and he just kept doing what's doing while also implementing a little bit of changes. And I think that was a very smart way to go. I know a lot of people were criticizing their lack of signings, but I think that that's probably a smoother transition. The opposite would have been to do what Chelsea have been doing for the last 2 years, right? Being a good manager doesn't mean that you never get it wrong. Fergie got it wrong all the time. Arsene Wenger gets it wrong. Ancelotti gets it wrong. People get it wrong. It's going to happen. It doesn't mean also that you never identify a transfer target that doesn't end up working out. It doesn't mean every person that you identify is going to be this world beater, is going to fit like a glove. Every manager brings in players that don't work out sometimes. We can all look at Jumbo. We can all look at Bebe. You can look at a lot of players. Arsenal bought Nicola Pepe. Didn't work out. It is what it is. Randy says, yeah, we still got Maguire and Lindelof. We do. Being a good manager doesn't mean you never lose to your rivals at home. You remember when Juan Mata hit that nice little scissor at Anfield to beat them a few years ago. It's going to happen. It happens to Fergie. It happened to Pep. It happens to Klopp. It happens. It's part of football. This isn't a video game where you can set it to easy and just win every match by 8-0. It's happened to Ten Hag. It will likely happen again. It's part of the game. But it's 3 matches into the season, and the same people who have been Ten Hag out since before the ink was even dry on his United contract have just been waiting for him to lose this match on this weekend against Liverpool. And they were just waiting. They were sitting just like this, salivating, ready to. They had 2 separate thumbnails going. They had 2 separate scripts going. They had 2 separate sets of tweets. The journos had 2 separate articles ready to go. Everybody's waiting for it. They've dug out their pitchforks out of storage. They've lit the torches, and they've just gone crazy. I've seen clips of United fans. I'm sure you guys have seen it if you spend any time on social media. I don't know the person's name. I've seen clips of this United fan watching the game, doing a watch along, and celebrating every time Liverpool scored because he just wants Ten Hag to be sacked. Like, this is where we're at. I'm sure you guys can think of a couple other YouTubers who are the same. Modern fans are weird. I can't imagine doing that. But at the end of the day, Ten Hag may not be a world-class manager yet, but he's by no means a bad manager. And people like to change what a good manager is whenever you prove them wrong with statistics or facts or whatever you want to call it. They move from we want trophies to, well, he won trophies. Okay, now it's, oh, we want a style of play. Well, he's got a style of play. Now they just keep moving. Oh, I want someone who's a good manager. I want someone who's going to dominate. I want someone with prestige. And back again to the cycle starts all over again. You just got to not engage with that kind of debate because it's circular. It goes nowhere. You can't argue with someone who's just going to move the goalposts every time you hit them with facts. As far as Ten Hag goes, time will tell if he's the man to get us challenging for the league and the Champions League again. We don't know yet. But you have to give him time. I know I said, if you remember, in my season predictions video, I have a lot of expectations for Ten Hag. This is his 3rd season, but it's his 3rd match in his 3rd season. And we've got players who have not even played for us yet that just got signed. We've got players who have only been here just over a week. We've got players and we've got new coaches too. It's going to take some time. This is a process. Sir Jim said it's going to take a few years. Barada and Ashworth have been talking to the press recently. It's not going to be an overnight process. We're just done 2 years into Ten Hag. Ineos have only not even been here for a year. And so you can't just look at it as a Ten Hag rebuild. You have to look at it as an Ineos rebuild. We have a whole new recruitment structure, whole new coaching staff. It's a whole new ownership. The rebuild started this summer. And I know that's going to ruffle a few feathers, but I'm just telling it like it is. The rebuild started a few summer. Now, Ten Hag does have a couple of his players, but because of the poor recruitment strategy in the past, some of those players are not necessarily who we wanted. Some of those players we paid more than we needed to pay, so it kept us from getting other players as well. Having players and having the right players is not the same thing. So I do have a lot of expectations, though, from Ten Hag, but 3 matches into the season is way, way, way too soon to be crying Ten Hag out. Let's give the new signings time to bed in. We can come back to chat in another few months and see where things are at there. You know, you can't just sit here and say, sack Ten Hag, that'll get us back on track, like without expounding and giving any sort of actual validity to that claim. It's just anger, it's reaction, it's agenda, it's bias. If you have no follow-up statement to that, just zip it, sit back. I know it's difficult too, but try to back the manager maybe and see how things unfold. Just maybe back the team, maybe back the manager, and just see. Ten Hag is here. He's not going anywhere right now. He was backed by Ineos. He was given a new contract, despite the fact that some people's alternative manager targets were out there and available. Ten Hag was back. They decided Ten Hag was the guy. And these same people who are crying Ten Hag out are probably the same people who were celebrating beating City in the final. Did you celebrate us winning the FA Cup? The Carabao Cup his first year? Did you celebrate us knocking Liverpool out of the FA Cup? Like, you can't have it both ways. So as the man once said, if you can't support us when we lose, don't support us when we win. Back the manager, back the team. You can criticize. We can give feedback. We can criticize. We can sit here and talk about it without being Ten Hag out. You're allowed to be critical without being like, F off, you're done. Randy, what are you guys saying here? It took Sir Alex Ferguson 5 years to win a trophy. Erik Ten Hag won 2 in 2 years. He's not better than Sir Alex, but give him a chance. Yeah, 2 years is nothing. You know, 1 summer under a new recruitment structure is nothing. New coaches, new everything. Let me know your thoughts. Like the video, please. Subscribe if you're new. Again, check the pinned comment, but also check the link in the video description. If you do want $5 off your order at GoGo Shop when it's time to get a new jersey, they did give me a cool code to give you guys as a thank you for just helping the channel get to where it is. We're jumping up to 1,100 subscribers. We're on the road to 2K subscribers, and I love and appreciate everybody. We did those giveaways on the weekend show. I'm going to pop those in the mail for Nick and Danny, who won. If you want to get involved in more of those, just get involved in the channel, get involved in the chat, leave comments. You guys, this is all about you. I'm just here to put out the context and put out the topics. I love that you guys are getting involved. I'm just happy to be able to show my appreciation. I'm really happy that GoGo Shop hooked me up with that discount code. So like I said, I ordered one recently. I have 2 more from GoGo Shop. When mine gets here, I'll throw it on for the video. You guys can see what you think. You can check out the quality, but they're super cheap, really good quality, and you guys can get $5 off when it comes time to get a new jersey. So check out the pinned comment, check out the link in the video description, like the video, subscribe. I will see you guys on the next one. Not a whole lot of transfer talk going on. I know there was some talk about Casemiro maybe going to Galatasaray. I know Turkey's transfer window is open for a little bit. Other than that, not a whole lot going on. So transfer window is over with for most places. So of course, any big news comes out, or if there's any big topics you guys want to discuss, or I feel like maybe it'd be good to do a video, I'll be back. But until then, enjoy your evening. I will see you guys on the next one. Take it easy. Randy, yeah, thanks, bud. Thanks for stopping by. Later, guys. Nick, send me the address, bud. I'll hook you up. Bye, guys.